You know, I think I should like twerk before every video. Just to scare away all the small minded people or the super conservative people who think that they can police other people and they think they know what the standard is for how a woman should be and all this other stuff. Like, I love my body. I work on it and I like to show it off. Don't hate. But that's not what this video is about, or is it? This video is requested um to talk about your inner child, healing your inner child without losing your childlike exuberance. Actually, when you heal your inner child, you regain that childlike exuberance that you had for life. So let me get into it. 1 second. I gotta close my door and tell my son not to make noise. 1 second. Keep the noise down. All right. So let's get into it. I made a couple notes just so I can stay on topic. So, yes, child.
So so Cam was asleep, so I turned the TV on for him so he can watch TV. And the TV, I don't know what it said, but it did work.
Okay, I'm making a video right now. Give me a couple minutes and I'll come help you. And if he sleep, he doesn't need to watch TV, right? Aren't you playing with something? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So just worry about yourself for right now. Go ahead. Go in the room. I'm recording. Sorry about that. That's the life. I'm not going to edit this because I got children. All right. So, babe, go out, close the door. Thank you. What is your... Okay. So, what is your inner child? And why does it need to be healed? Let's start there. So, your inner child is basically literally what it sounds like. It's the child version of yourself. It's Hey, you hear all that? I'm sure that is getting picked up. So, I'll wait a second. All right. Anyway, so your inner child is everything that you were programmed for as a child. When we're born as babies, we don't come in knowing anything really. Our memories were wiped clean before we came through the womb, supposedly, right? So we aren't born with like a rule book and a guidebook on how to be human. So we have to get our cues from our parents, from our guardians, from our peers, and from what we observe with our own senses, from our own experiences, right? So as a child, you are not totally in control of what you're programmed, of how you're programmed, right? um you have parents. Some say we choose our parents before we came here. Some say our parents are chosen for us based on our soul mission. Either way, our parents have a major responsibility because they are guiding us and molding us and shaping our trajectory in the world, and they are the ones who are there to really their job is to keep us safe and to guide us and give us the best knowledge that they know how to navigate in the world. I don't know why this boy is knocking on the door when I just told him, don't come back in here. I'm making a video. Yes, Chad.
Can I go to Grandpa's house?
I'm taking you to Grandpa's house in a little later. Please stop knocking on his door. I'm busy. Go do something until I come out there, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Hey, where's my coffee? I left my coffee in it. I need my coffee right now. Anyway, where was I? So, long story short, your inner child is all the memories that you have from childhood. A thing about your memories though, and how your memories are programmed. Memories are programmed based on the emotion, right? Um, if you didn't know, your emotion is heavily stored in your body. So your cells, as you experience things, your cells take on genetic memory and it's encoded into your DNA. That's why you have a connection to your ancestors and their struggles and their dreams and their hopes because it's all encoded in your DNA. So everything that you pick up, not not necessarily everything, but everything that causes an emotional heightened response. And that emotional heightening can be from a very great experience or a very bad, sad experience. The point of it is based on the amount of emotion that determines how large of an imprint it's going to have on your memory. And unfortunately for us humans, um a lot of that imprinting is of negative experiences, right? And that's not because we didn't have great times in our childhood, right? Everybody, has had good moments, but sometimes we don't remember those as much as we remember the bad things that happen. Why? Because the way our brain works or our mind works, right? Our subconscious is that these imprints on the subconscious protect us from getting into situations that previously caused us harm, right? So your your genetic memory or your cell memory, what's stored in your brain, is to keep you safe, right? So a lot of times what we actually remember is the negative experiences, the abuse, the times we were told we wasn't going to be nothing in life, the times our mother didn't come to the game, even if she came to 10 games. You might remember just the one time she didn't show up and you didn't have that support, right? So I'm just explaining this to you so you understand how the inner child works, and that sometimes it is, I'm not gonna say it's false memory, but it is not really fair, so it doesn't really give the benefit to your positive experiences. It weighs more heavily on your negative experiences. Okay, so that's first. So your inner child is usually the programming that is mostly negative, that is stored in your genetic memory and is stored in your brain, which has built the building blocks, the foundation of your psyche as you know it today. Like, it has built the foundation of how you operate in the world, the things that you want versus the things that you don't want now, or maybe even the things that you desire that you're denying yourself. Okay, so it's the building blocks of your emotional, your mental, and your emotional, mental, not so much as your spiritual self, but it can weigh on your spirit, right? Because your true self is your spiritual self, which is never corrupted. Okay, that part of you remains pure, right? So the point of inner child healing is to connect the purest part of yourself, your highest self, your highest, most mature, most evolved self, to your childlike self who wasn't in full control. That's another thing about let me see. Yeah. So you have to um heal your inner child in order to get out of victimhood, right? In order to evolve into a whole being, okay? Because when your inner child is wounded and not attended to, and is not loved, and is not, so basically you have to go back and grow that child up. Like, it's really like you're being your own parent. That's how you heal your inner child. It's a lot of root chakra work because it's about just that first coming into the world, like how you approach life and being a human, like what you were taught. Like if in childhood you were taught to fear most things, that blocks your root chakra. Like if you grew up in like poverty, if you grew up in an abusive environment, if you grew up in a violent environment, that blocks you mentally, because as a child you can't decipher like what is actually your fault and what isn't. Like, you personalize everything. You're like, oh well, this didn't happen, so this is my fault. This my parent didn't do this, so it must be something wrong with me. As a child, you don't have the mental capacity yet, and you actually don't have it until after about 25, really, to really be able to you know look at your actions and see the repercussions and the consequences of it. Like, you don't even really develop that part of your brain until after you hit about 25. So anyone under the age of 25, that's why they have like different laws for juveniles, like when they commit crimes, because they don't have the foresight to really understand the repercussions of their actions, right? So as a child, you take a lot of stuff on that really is not your stuff. It's really your parents' stuff. It's really your peer stuff. It's really the stuff of your environment that you had no choice but to experience because you weren't in control of where you went, whose care you were under, and how they treated you, right? So when you grow up, there's a disconnect. Your true destiny is not aligned with how you're programmed, right? Because your true destiny and your true self is not corrupted, but society and the world is. So now you're like stuck in between. You know that in the back of your mind you are pure and you're love and you're a light being, but the reality is not lining up with that. And so you start to feel like you don't belong, something is wrong with you. And so in adulthood, early adulthood, we're coming to terms with that. um but in order to heal your inner child, you have to start realizing that you did not have control. That's the first thing. You didn't have control. And so you have to drop the shame and the guilt. It's a lot of forgiveness that needs to go on to heal your inner child. You have to forgive yourself, and you have to forgive the people that created the experiences, and you have to come to terms with the actual experiences, right? It's a very layered process, and it's very difficult to overcome because no one's gonna sit there and tell you you gotta grow up. Like, you know what I'm saying? They see you growing as far as physically, and they think your mentality and your emotional, and you and your emotional growth is actually happening with your physical maturity, but in a lot of times it's not. Like, you have grown ass children walking around because they're still operating from their inner child, right? So somebody who's operating from their inner child, you can just see it sometimes in a lot of the things that their emotional maturity. Like, okay, you're not processing things like an adult. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're still acting like a child. Like, or you're not taking responsibility for your life. You know, you're just allowing your past to dictate whatever goes on today for you. Another thing, if they're constantly in victim mode, you haven't um resolved your inner child. So it could be different for different people. A lot of people have abandonment issues that they might have to resolve. A lot of people have just reject the spirit of rejection on them. Like they just felt like they were rejected a lot, and they weren't they didn't feel like they belonged. So it's really you have to have courage. Courage is the number one thing that is going to take for you to cross those hurdles and get through your inner child, because otherwise you're just going to keep evading it, and you're going to stay in victimhood. So in order for you to get out of victimhood and to be whole at peace and at peace, you have to resolve it. So you got to go back into those experiences. First you got to identify them, because a lot of times we repress a lot of memories, right? So we sometimes, just because it's so hard to keep reliving it, we just get into like a la la land sometimes, and suffer from escapism. And escapism can look like drug abuse, alcohol abuse, um, but it also looks like victimhood, like constantly blaming other people for your problems, or blaming your past for why you are what you are today and why you will remain that way tomorrow. That is emotional immaturity, you know. um Once you become an adult, you really are going to have to take full responsibility of everything in your life's catalog. So you have to go back and say, all right, what I'm doing right now. First of all, you have to identify what your issue is today. Why aren't you able to seamlessly integrate into not necessarily society, but into yourself? Because a lot of people are having like a lot of mental conflict. Like they can't get clarity. They feel blocked, and this is all because of the inner child thing, right? So when you feel that way, you really have to go back and identify the things that shaped, listen real closely, the things that shaped how you respond to different situations. Okay, so for example, um, say your first experience with males was uh, your father who was absent, right? Who wasn't there, right? Who didn't show you what real men do, right? Say if that was your first childhood experiences of men, right? So unwittingly or unknowingly, or whether you're aware of it or not, your brain is forming based upon the experiences you're having with a man or not having with a man. And therefore, when you grow up, your emotional and physical and mental responses behave in that same manner, because it's formed in your brain, right? So you literally have to go back and say, what memory formed the way I think about men? So you have to identify, was it like your older brother? Is that who you saw as the first male? Was it your father that you did or didn't see? And you have to go back and really right the wrongs. You have to right the wrongs of stuff you didn't even do, of stuff that your parents might have done or didn't do. You have to actually go back and mentally right their wrongs. Okay, even though it's not your fault per se. And that's why with spirituality, you have to get out of whose fault is it. That's irrelevant. It doesn't matter how things got the way that they got at a certain point. At a certain point, this is your life, and now you're an adult and you got to fix it, right? So forget who's to blame. And that's where the forgiveness comes in. Like, you have to stop feeling bad, feeling sorry for yourself, okay? Now that you're an adult and you have control over what you do and how you do it and how you show up in the world, now that means you have the responsibility to shape and mold your life the way it's supposed to be. So that means you have to go back and you have to forgive your parent, because now you know things that you didn't know as a child. You thought it was because of you that your father wasn't showing up or wasn't coming. You thought it was because of you. But as an adult, you know now that what adults do seldom have anything to do with the child. It's them and their demons that they're working out. And they just don't have the foresight to see that it's affecting their child the way that it does. So you got to forgive your father. You got to forgive him. Because he knew. What did Jesus say before he gave him the... Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. This is all, the Christ story is all about a spiritual resurrection. All about coming to terms with the world in the purest form of you. Right? What happened? Because Jesus was like so different from everybody else. Nobody understood him, right? So it took him to really be at peace with who he was and understand that they don't know what they're doing. I have enough knowledge to know that they really don't know what they're doing. So I can't really hold them accountable the way that I can maybe hold myself, because it's like a parent and a child. You can't hold a child accountable for things that they just don't have the knowledge of, right? So that's what kind of like, so you have to depart from what you experienced and how it felt then to what you know now. And that has to come and find a healthy medium. That's where you have to find the balance. Okay? So instead of blaming your parents, instead of blaming your abusers, instead of blaming your peers, if you get stuck there, if you get stuck in the guilt and the shame and you taking on all that baggage, you will remain stuck. But if you can cross that hurdle and say, well, you know what? They didn't have enough information to make the right decisions, or they were operating from their wounded inner child, and they never were able to mature themselves and grow that inner child up. So they operate from a place of pain, right? And so they project that pain on other people. So you have to stop the cycle. That's what it's about. Healing your inner child is about stopping the cycle and really stepping back and looking at the patterns. Because 9 times out of 10, a lot of this stuff is generational. If you really look, a lot of the experiences that you might have had, your mother may have had, or your father may have had, and your grandfather and their father and their father. Like, there's a lot of pathologies that run through families, and we like, oh, the person is predisposed to this and that. No, it's an ongoing pathology, and it's up to you to step back, look at things with an eagle's eyes view, and say, damn, that's a pattern that's effed up within my family, and I'm going to stop it with me, with myself. And once I stop it with myself, then it'll save my children, because they're not going to then go along that same path, because I'm putting a stop to it. I'm deading that sexual abuse that's been something that's been a part of my family. You know what I'm saying? For example, I've never, but I'm deadening that spirit of suppressing children and oppressing children and acting like I'm some type of super superior to the child, like I have to boss them around. No, that child has his own destiny and beautiful highest self. You're supposed to be raising the children up to reach their highest self, not giving them more weights and baggage that's going to weigh them down and keep them into their lower self. So that's the understanding that you have to have going into it. It's not about blame. It's not about shame. It's not about guilt. It's about forgiveness. Knowing that you are pure. You're pure. Nothing can corrupt your spirit and your soul unless you allow it to, like as far as perpetuating abuse. Like that's how you create negative karma. When you just bypass your own intellect where you have the power to change things, and you just allow the same bullshit to flow through you to other people. So you're projecting pain and violence and all the bullshit that hurt you as a child. When you're perpetuating that into adulthood, that's how you get negative karma, and that is no excuse for that. So you have to be a mature adult and go back and say, look, I got to change some things for me to live my best life, and for my children, and for all the generations to follow, my whole lineage, to live a better life or a better existence, right? So what other notes? So that was really all the notes that I made. I'm trying to think of. Oh, okay. So me personally, give my experience real quick about me healing my inner child, right? So I spent a lot of time just going into my memories. I had like a mentor who kind of helped me just bring up past experiences. This is my journey of how healing my inner child, and really identifying that, damn, that shit pissed me off, or that made me feel small, or that made me feel unwanted, that made me feel unloved. Going back and identifying those exact experiences, right? Sometimes you can't even get the exact experience, but you know who did it, right? So it's about going back to that and really looking at it as a mature person, like, and as a person who has made mistakes, and as a person who's very compassionate, right? You have to have compassion. A lot of inner healing has to do with grace and mercy upon yourself. You got to have so much grace. You got to treat your inner child like a child with kid gloves. You have to be nurturing to her or him. You have to care. You have to give a lot of love and nurturing, right? Overly, you have to be overly gracious to that child. You're overly understanding, right? Cruelty and being hard on yourself is not healing, right? Saying, well, I messed up, I should have did this, and like going harder in the paint because of that, like using anger and fear and frustration to fuel you is a negative way to be. Like you can accomplish things like outwardly, and it may look good to other people, but inside you'll still be divided. Inside you'll still be torn. So before my inner child was healed, and I'm not gonna say completely, it's everything is an ongoing process, but a major thing for me was, like I said, going back and identifying those times and experiences and actually looking at it from an adult perspective. Like, damn, I felt like that, but was it really like that? Like, was it really like that? Did I take stuff to heart too much? You know what I'm saying? And 9 times out of 10, you did, because like I said, as a child, that's what you do. So you could just look at it now as an experience, right? We personalize our lives a little too much, right? We kind of have to be an observer. We have to step outside of our experiences and kind of look at it like a movie. Like you're looking at it as a movie. And the great thing about looking at your life as a movie is that you know that since you're able to look at it as a movie, and you know it's happened already, you know that you're safe, right? You know how the movie is going right now. You might not know the ending, but you have to come to understand that you're creating the movie every day, right? So if you shift and change the script, the movie could just end however you need it to end. It could be glorious. But first, you have to go back and look at what's happened so far objectively, like without judgment. Like, stop judging the characters in the story and just look at it like it's not even you, right? Kind of like it's not even you. And that way you can kind of detach your emotions from it. Like, oh, well, damn, that happened, but it was a lot of other stuff that was going on that caused it to happen. And guess what? I needed that experience to know how to navigate when it comes back up. Everything that happens in your childhood is circumstances. Time is cyclical. It just keeps revolving. The same experiences keep coming. The difference is the way you react to them. So once you start reacting different and you change the narrative, then new experiences can come. But as long as you haven't learned the lesson in it, then you're going to keep getting the same experiences. So if you want new experiences, you have to come to be at peace with the ones you already had. Like, you have to learn to transcend them. You know what I'm saying? Not to be in the bottom, the heavy space of it, but to be in the lightest space of it, the most detached space from it. Like, it happened. But guess what? Now I know better. Now I can do better, right? My parents wasn't shit. But now that I know what not to do, now I know that I can build on what to do. That's a big part of growing, and it is knowing what not to do. That's why failing, which I really don't even really believe in failure as a final destination, but failing is what you're going to need to know what to do and what not to do. So it's not a bad thing. It's an experience. So take what you need from it and leave the rest. Leave the baggage, but take the lessons. And that's how you keep your heart light, right? Stop personalizing it. It ain't yours. Leave that shit alone, all right? This world ain't yours. It's an experience that you're going through. So have that certain amount of detachment. Yes, you're going to still be affected by things that happen, but you do not have to experience it with all the weight that the original experience had, right? Like, if you see abuse today and you were abused, like, you're not going to respond in fear and feeling yourself back in that helpless state like you were when you were abused. You have to turn it around and come from a place of empowerment, because that happened to you. Now you know how to protect other children. Now you know the signs of when it's happening to other children. So that is a part of your soul mission. You go through experiences to help you become clear on why you're here. If things happen to you that hurt you, your mission is to help protect other people from that. But you can't do that if you still feel like the victim. You have to come from the place of the hero, of the conqueror, of the victorious in order to do that. So after I got through the, going back and identifying the traumas that shaped the way I feel, think, and, experience things, after I did that part of it, then it was like, I got actually, I don't even know if we called it an inner child. I got a Reiki. This is what I booked. I booked a Reiki session. Excuse me. Now, mind you, I'm a reader myself. So, and I'm very picky with who I allow to come into my energy, right? So I don't let anybody read me. In fact, I've only had 4 professional readings in my whole life, and trust me, I vetted the hell out of these people. I watched them for minimum of a year, all right, before I allowed them to do any spiritual work on me. And I think that's very important. You have to watch somebody for a long time. But me, I don't know what other people do, but this is how protective I am of my energy and allowing people to tap into my essence, right? You just don't get a reading from everybody. You get a reading from people that you know are not operating from ego, but are operating from being a vessel, from being a messenger, and they're not putting their own spin on stuff. Like they're not doing it because they got to make ends meet. You don't want nobody reading you or helping you who's coming from a place of desperation or coming from a place where they need your money or they need, no. You have to somebody who is literally a messenger where spirit can speak through them and to you. So anyway, saying all that to say, I booked a reading with my girl Cheyenne at the Sankofa House in Savannah, Georgia. I was living in New York, but my family was already going to visit Hilton Head, South Carolina. So I'm like, look, honey, I need to stop in Savannah, Georgia, because my soul is telling me that I need to get with this woman and have her do a reading on me or a Reiki session or whatever the hell she offering. I just know I had to book something with her because my soul was saying this is who can help you do something. I didn't even know what it was that I needed for her to necessarily help me with. I just knew I had to get in her presence. And look her up. I'm actually in one of her groups right now. We meet every Tuesday night virtually. It's awesome, yo. I'm telling you, it's a great sister circle every Tuesday night. Look her up, Camilla Kamat on Facebook, and I think it's the same name on Instagram. She owns Sankofa House. Very spiritual, very gifted, and she's a vessel for spirit. That's the important part. Like where it's not her personal opinion, it's not her personal. She's a medium, a conduit. Just like me. But sometimes you need another one to get the message that maybe your own psyche is blocking you from seeing, blocking you from getting. You just need assistance sometimes, and that's all right. Everybody's gonna need some spiritual assistance, some mental assistance, emotional assistance. Don't feel bad about that, and don't think that makes you less of a person. You need that. You need that push, or you need somebody to hold space with you so you can see. When we say hold space, that's like opening up the environment, because sometimes you're just so crowded by your thoughts and your feelings, and you're just overwhelmed by that. And so sometimes somebody gotta come in and lend you their space to open up the room, to open up the vision for you so you can understand what's really going on, right? So she was able to do that for me in our Reiki session, right? And I just went in open, like, all I know is that it was a hurdle, it was a block that I needed to overcome. And it wasn't really, I felt blocked, I just felt like there was static. Like, I just felt like I wasn't truly aligned with what was truly for me and what I was pursuing. Like, I might have been caught up in making a business or showing to people how successful I am. That's really kind of, I don't know. But anyway, I just felt like there was some static there. I just wasn't fully clear. So, and it wasn't until after the session that I realized that she helped to connect my inner child with my higher self. And it was during the Reiki session. Now, mind you, she's just, flowing off spirit. And she's like, telling me about, what she sees. So she saw that, my three spiritual mothers were there, right? Who've always guided me. I've always seen my three spiritual mothers in my dreams. Their faces change, but I always have three spiritual mothers who protect me and guide me. She saw them. And they gave her the message for me. And I can't even tell you exactly what she said. I don't remember. But I just know after the session, I felt one. like I just felt more at peace. Like I'm like, okay, it's she during the session she was like, kind of like go cross the river and go get your inner child and hold her hand and let her know everything is all right and walk her back across those waters onto the shore with you. Like that's just like a brief thing from what I remember. But I was in a state of complete surrender. You could say hypnosis or trance or whatever. Really, I was just had my eyes closed and took it on a subconscious level. It's like a meditation. It's a guided meditation. It's type of thing. So she's tapping into my subconscious and she's creating the movie that I also see and that I'm also participating in. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, the point is afterwards or during, I kind of went and said, because a lot of times we're running from our inner child. That's the thing. We're running and evading it. Like we think we're mature because we're grown up. We think that we have to be a grown up because we look like grown ups. And sometimes we don't even realize that there's a child inside of us who wasn't nurtured, who feels rejected, who feels abandoned, who is like 2 feet tall, who's like this little. You know what I'm saying? And you have to literally go back and rub that baby on the back, pat that baby on the butt, feed that baby new nutrients and everything, and regrow that baby up with your you have to literally be your own mother, your own father, right? And be so doting on that inner child, so that inner child can love itself and love the experience that they experienced. Maybe they didn't love it then, but now they have a new appreciation for it because you made it and now you're in control. That's what you start feeling. I made it. Now I am in control of my decisions, so I don't have to be fearful. I don't have to be scared. I just have to trust in what I know and trust in spirit and trust in my guides that I'm in full awareness and I'm in control and I have a destiny and a purpose. So I hope I didn't make this video too long. I really didn't want to make it too long. I should have stopped it about 12 minutes ago. But I just wanted to get all that out. So you can definitely book a Reiki session with my girl Cheyenne if you're willing to go to Savannah, Georgia. She might even do things virtually now. It's great to be in a personal experience, but she can do the same thing for you virtually. You know what I'm saying? You just have to surrender and tap into it, and you have to have a certain a level of trust for anybody who's going to work on you. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. Or have an inner child session, or you can do a lot of the work yourself by really focusing on your root chakra and coming to terms with life as life is, not life as you think it should be or you think it should have been. A lot of root chakra work is just accepting everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent. All of that has to do with maturing your inner child. It's not about what happened to you. It's about how you take what happened to you and you shape your future. Okay? So, feel pretty good with that. All right. So, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for listening. I hope this helped someone. Let me know in the comments if you need me to expand or expound on anything that I touched on, or if you don't fully understand. I'm here to help. You can hit me up on Facebook, Chandra Fight, the Golden Goddess in parentheses on Facebook. On IG is Golden Goddess 898. And of course, my YouTube is Golden Goddess Healing Arts. And like I said, I'm going to try to be more consistent with these videos because now, I think now the time people are being more receptive to the type of information that I have to give and others like me have to give. So I'm definitely going to try to do my part and, give videos and just share what I know or what I've experienced and my knowledge, blah, 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 blah. Share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm tired of talking. All right, have a good one.